listened to it countless times, but what did you get from it?
I think you end up spotting all the little bits and pieces. It's the honest truth of it.
Yeah, I don't think we've become any less what was it apparently said?
Begins with P. I'll leave it there.
Perfectionist.
But also hearing the sides is different for us because we're used to only hearing two speakers. So,
of course, yeah. And can you tell us a bit about the vocalists that worked on the album, please?
Yeah. So thank you to Robin. I don't know if she's still here.
Right here.
Robin at the back. Which is the current single, which is great. Great to have her involved in the project. And then I did a lot of the vocals on the other tracks.
Yep.
And we also had
Danielle Rose, who she sang on the track we did Air, and she duetted with Jono on Spark, which again we played for the first time tonight. And she's not here, unfortunately, she couldn't make it, but she's wished us well, so I'll take that.
And is the genesis of the tracks, is it always the music first, the vocal comes later, or do you work both way rounds on this album?
It was a bit of both, really, wasn't it? Actually, in a way. I mean, they kind of a lot of them came together. We generally sort of wrote them in one go, didn't we? Went for a walk and wrote the lyrics in the park or whatever.
Something like that. It was we approached this in one way slightly differently, I think, from a lot of things, which is that we kind of we got an idea down quite quickly a lot of the time, and then we'd move on to something else, and then again, and then it was quite. When we came back to it, we were like, oh yeah, we're on something here, but the songwriting part, I would say, it came at different stages in the writing process.
Yeah, and I suppose actually that's a good point, because we wrote about 12 tracks in one go, didn't we? And they were very much sort of jams of ideas from. Basically, what happened was because of the pandemic, we had a lot of time on our hands, obviously, and a lot of sort of old analog synths and equipment that we hadn't sort of turned on for a while. So we turned them on and played around with those and kind of jammed out ideas and then edited that together from all those bits. So it was kind of, they all kind of started out as jams rather than, sort of clear ideas. Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll hand you over to the audience now. Who's got a question? Someone start. Oh, right here, that's Andy.
That's easy, right? First, I liked it a lot, and everything that comes out now, even with my German accent, it's a compliment. So, just want to ask you, because you just mentioned you used all the old kit, it really, the first songs really remind me of Miami Vice, Jan Hammer and so on, but later also the good old Italo disco, the slightly flanged guitars on top of the pads, of course, synthetic stuff. Was that the intention?
Yeah, I think, okay, I can put it this way around. We didn't want to just make exactly the same sounds from that period of time. I mean, for me, I suppose the period of time is sort of the 80s through to the 90s, really. A lot of people who've heard it immediately think 80s, but to me, there's also quite a bit of early 90s influences as well. But yeah, it was the intention to kind of get that sound and then sort of expand on it a bit, rather than have it as it was then, which is quite sort of in the 80s particularly, there wasn't a lot of bass on records, for example. So we wanted kind of that sound plus a notch, if you know what I mean. But yeah, it was very intentional to use things like the AMS reverbs from the 80s, which were used on a lot of the Phil Collins records, and that kind of big gated reverb sound on drums and things like that in certain points. But also combine it with some of the acoustic elements. Like, Darren is amazing with strings and stuff, so there's that side of it as well.
I don't pay him much, honestly. I think obviously some of those synths as well, they inherently have that sound. They were made in that 60s, 70s, 80s, those periods, and they were used a lot of the time. And I think because we employed them in that way, you're going to get those textures. But like John has said, we wanted to combine that with the modern production techniques and give it that kind of juxtaposition between those two areas and eras.
Anyone else? Next question up there.
Wow, dude, that was amazing. I was 9 years old again. I just thought, would you collaborate with people like, I don't know, Nick Kershaw or Tate or people like that, or even Michael Cassette actually, because it just blew my mind a couple of years ago, and I know he's on your label, and it's just amazing, man. Thank you so much for that, and yeah, do that as well.
Thank you. Yeah, the Michael Cassette thing, it's interesting actually because we've got a remix from them. So, there's one guy now, used to be two. So that's pretty cool. But in terms of collaboration, yeah, I mean that could be an interesting thing to do actually. I hadn't thought of it that way around, but I really like Nick Kershaw's songwriting. You know, the way I don't know how musical you are, but the way he hops around key-wise is quite amazing. But yeah, Tears for Fears as well. That was definitely, you know, a reference for us, I think, at one point in the album, on one particular song. All of those artists, yeah, I'd love to, but will they want to? I don't know.
I was sort of doing the time, I didn't realise till now all the influences I was picking up along the way. And it was like, oh, this came on. You're like, oh my god, like that's why I liked everything both of you have done all the time. So thanks, man. Cheers.
Yeah. We were both writing music. We've been since a very young age, so yeah.
Don't give the game away.
So just a few years, and so we've grown up with that music, and it's been great. It's a great opportunity to bring all of those things that we grew up with and loved into this project. So.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm so happy to be here. I flew from Paris to see you. And thanks to all of you. So I have a question for each of you. As Jono said that you are a strings master, some production tips. What strings what instruments do you use for your strings? And then another question for Jono.
Right. So over the years I've used different string libraries. I learned from doing hardcore film scoring the importance of being able to have those things at your disposal. Spitfire libraries in particular I find very useful, but I tend to layer them with things like Metropolis Arc and the Symphobia libraries. So it depends on the size and the depth of the library you want, because sometimes some libraries are better for intimacy and others are better for that big ensemble sound.
Yes, the strings brought that cinematic feeling that was very beautiful. And then another question for Jono, because I'm obsessed with it, about Above and Beyond and Screwdriver. You wrote the remix, Jono Back to 95 remix, and the piano is awesome. Can make anyone dance on the planet. What instrument do you use for the piano?
That's it's a very standard sound from a Korg M1. It's a Korg M1 piano, which is used on a lot of those old house records. I mean, it was a very much a nod to that era, and just sort of trying to transplant it in a slightly more modern context, really. Yeah.
Korg M1.
Yep.
Thank you.
So hi guys, thank you very much. I think I'm going to echo what a lot of people will say, but you brought all the music I was listening to in the 70s, 80s and early 90s into the way I'd like to hear it today. So thank you very much. And I'm going to be very upfront and transparent that there's a bet on this for me. What I need to understand is, I've met you both a couple of times, and how did you manage to get a word in edgeways around Darren to get this project off the ground?
Is that a planned question?
It smells like one.
I don't know how to answer that.
Apparently you're answering.
Well, I've got the platform now, haven't I?
Yeah.
There's your answer. He keeps quiet
Just
sometimes.
get me quiet now. Don't get anything more out of me tonight.
Hello, David, fellow and devoted Anjunabeats fan, JODA fan, Above and Beyond fan, Darren Tate fan. I saw a post online, I forget which song, but Darren was like going hard on the keys, and it got me thinking, would you guys ever consider like arranging your album into like a jazz version or just an alternate version of the tracks?
I love jazz, but I don't think I would. I do love jazz, but I can't see that personally. What do you think, Darren?
I'm not so sure about jazz, although there are elements in jazz writing that I think we look at, we consider sometimes, but I do think there's a lot to be said for us doing things on a more of a live tip as well, and potentially in the future. But I don't see a jazz reinterpretation at this point. Oh, sorry.
Okay, any other questions down there?
There's already a few minor sevens in there, though, David.
I can hear it. I can hear
I
it.
made sevens.
Put an extra one in for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll add some nines.
So thank you very much, guys, again. I just have a couple of questions. The first one is, so you've known each other for a few decades, possibly, probably. So why now get together and do this album? So it seems like the pandemic has something to do there, but I would like to hear more about the like why now, why a new alias, and tied to that is like if you could like share a little bit of the creative process, like because it was during the pandemic, so I imagine you were both in your houses and your places. So how was the process of like writing the songs, and would you send things like back and forth, and also if you can share like what equipment did you use apart from the string library? So, sorry about the hoarding all the questions.
No, that's all right. It's good questions, actually.
Started with
So-
lost places, didn't it?
Yeah, so we were working. Above and Beyond was doing the Last Glacier's score, which was a documentary film. I don't know if you've seen it, but basically when that score came in, we were thinking, you know, we'd like to work with Darren on it because basically Darren's amazing with score stuff. He's spent a lot of years doing that, and to, you know, while we could write music for a score, to actually, you know, that's a big deal to do a score. It requires a lot of work and some, you know, experience as well. So that's why we were working with Darren at the time. And then the pandemic hit, as you said, and what happened actually was that the score was sort of in the works, but the film wasn't finished. So one day I said to Darren, come down to the studio and hang out, just because I'd been in his studio a lot. And that's when we wrote the track Shape of Your Heart, which was the first one we did. And then the pandemic hit. We were waiting for the film to be finished, and yeah, lockdown happened. And then they said you could work in you know, still go to work. So that was a kind of a loophole where we were able to still work together, and we didn't see anybody else basically, and just saw each other and wives or whatever. And then basically worked on those songs and came out with the initial sort of 10 or 12 tracks, and just kept going with that. And equipment-wise, you know, we were particularly keen to use the Roland Jupiter 8 because it's a synthesizer, if you know anything about gear, that kind of symbolises the 80s. It's a very rich sounding beast. It's quite hard to get hold of. Luckily I got one before they kind of went crazy in price. And so that was a big anchor point sound-wise. A lot of the pads you hear and stuff like We Find Ourselves, the first single, are off the Jupiter 8. And then Darren was encouraging me to buy other bits and pieces, so I got
I had a gun, and I was pointing at it and said, just go out, take your Anjunabeats credit card and buy everything.
so we got the Behringer Odyssey, which is quite a cheap synth, but was good fun. And then We Find Ourselves bassline was kind of made on that, and that's when we really got going with that sort of 80s plus or 90s plus bit of sound. Really.
Yeah, I mean, I'd been just before then been experimenting more with switching gear on, basically, because Jono had collected a terrific collection, in fact, above and beyond, I should say, of equipment over the years, and a lot of it was sitting around, and we actually used most of it in making the album, and it's quite a lot of fun actually, because it's quite a hands-on process, unlike sitting in front of a computer and clicking a mouse. So I think we really enjoyed that process, and going back to those roots, which we'd actually grown up with.
Yeah, I actually looked around the studio yesterday because I was having a bit of a tidy up, and every single synth that I could see had been used on the album, I realised, which is good. You know, some of the old relics that hadn't been out for a while, but yeah, they're inspiring, you know, because when you're using a mouse all the time, we live in a world now, right, where you're just always staring at screens and stuff, and it's, you know, it's strangely actually exciting not to do that and to just have a keyboard in front of you instead of just working with a mouse. So that's kind of, that itself was quite inspiring. Don't know if that answers everything.
Yeah, thank you very much. G'day guys. Yeah, look, I'm a trans around the world one fan, so it's been 20 years, I think, a bit over that. But I'm really interested to know, because obviously I've seen, obviously, you know, Darren, I've got into you more recently, and Jono obviously seeing, you know, Pavo going to do his own stuff and everything. I'm really interested to know why you both chose to work together. That's probably an intense question, and what makes you both work. Because obviously going and doing your own different things for quite some time, and then coming together and doing this, you know, there's obviously got to be a synergy that works really, really well, right? Especially to come and produce an album together when you haven't done that before, effectively. So I'll probably question to both of you, what do you think has made it work between both of you? Because look, that was beautiful, really, really enjoyed that. And there's lots of different elements and lots to unpack, but just really keen to understand what the synergy is between both of you, and what you think makes it work, because it has worked, so well done.
Thank you very much. And we first worked together. We met, you know, I hate to say 20 years ago, it's horrific, but quite a while ago we met on a bus, going to play, I think it was your second ever gig.
In Japan, yeah.
In Japan, we were playing that same night, and we met and we get on, and I met Tony, who's also in the audience up there. Hello, Tony, and Palmer, thanks for coming. We got on really well, and then we ended up doing a couple of trance records together, which became quite, you know, well known and popular and played by a lot of DJs, and we got on really well. We just had a synergy, and we had I think a similar outlet in terms of what kind of music we liked, and the approach to writing, you know, and I think that as composers, even in our own right, and especially on the dance side, you know, we've both been involved with writing quite uplifting and euphoric music over the years, and there's a synergy in that as well. And so when the pandemic presented the opportunity to work with Jono, and I remember when he also invited me, of course, to do the Ask Glaciers, it was almost like, you know, we were waiting for that opportunity in a way to do that. We talked about it for a long time, and it was great that came about, and enjoyed every moment of it.
Second all that, and also Darren's sense of harmony and musicality is amazing, and it kind of, yeah, I love what he creates in that regard. So it was something I was really into, and love working with him. He's a great laugh as well. His sense of humour is extremely dry, and you know, it's just we have a good time doing it. So
we do, and I think mutual respect as well for each other's work, and I think that, you know, John has very kindly said those things, and it goes both ways. You know, I think that's a big part of it as well.
On here,
Stina.
Excellent. I'm the first woman to ask a question. Always the first, right? Thank you. First of all, I'm so fucking proud of both of you, honestly. I spent the whole hour crying, by the way, under my mask, so thank God. Very kind. Shout out to all my old peeps, Dulcie, Michelle, Lizanne, Tony, everybody here. And Giselle, wherever she is. I don't know if she's here somewhere.
She's still there.
Okay, so a question I had, literally I was on a journey with both of you, and you can hear all the different influences, definitely a bit of U2, a bit of an excess, all sorts of other bits and bobs. What age were you when you actually really decided you loved this type of music? And with that version of yourself, are you proud of this record you made today?
Wow, what a question, eh? Take a moment. The question was, what age?
Were you when you decided to make music, or this type
Yeah.
of music? And with that version of that person, are you proud of the record you made today?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think it's somewhere between about 5 and 7, somewhere around there, maybe. But then with other stuff on top of that. So, but I think the sort of, yeah, maybe even 4 or 5. You know, I can remember like hearing music. Well, actually, maybe that's a bit early, because That would be, I'm 79 boy, so yeah. I think, yeah, from 5 to 7, around that age. I also had like stuff like Jean-Michel Jarre, New Order, Pet Shop Boys. Pet Shop Boys probably came in the sort of mid-late 80s for me. So it's around, from 5 onwards, I'd say. I think in terms of being proud of it, it's, I mean, there's always things when you make a record you change and you know do something different. But overall, in terms of the impact of it, I think I am. Yeah. Thank you. No, I appreciate your words.
Oh, me as well. Right. No, I mean, I look back fondly on things that I did. I kind of, I'm always very proud and privileged by the fact that I get to do music for a living. But when I look back, as just like Jono said, I mean, we've developed as musicians. We're always learning all the time. Is the truth. So yes, maybe there are things that you look back on and think yourself come on since then. But and just like you, I mean, I kind of grew up with a lot of these artists, but this was the first real opportunity to really, in essence, to bring a lot of that to light. There's been hints of it, but never really have we gone. Or at least have I gone so brought all those elements in together. So
I didn't even know Darren was into that kind of music. Really, I didn't. I mean, because we kind of we met each other through dance music. So the other influences that are in there, although there was some dance on there, obviously. Those other bits I didn't know about.
We've got time for just a couple more. Let's have some from this side, yeah.
Oh, I recognise that young man over there.
Hi, I'm Samuel Tate. You might recognise me from somewhere, but I'm not sure.
You still look more like
you've got the human genetics.
I must say, this music was absolutely incredible. I genuinely did love it, and every part of it made me extremely happy. What do you think the future of JODA will be between you two, or if so, future collaborations?
Very good question, and thank you. You're definitely going to get extra chocolate this week. Very proud. My son's made me very proud tonight. I think that we've had a great experience, and we've already got ideas moving forwards already for other ideas. It's obviously now time is. We're both busy musicians. Obviously, Jono has his other commitments and everything else, but we've loved it and we want to do more, I think it's fair to say, and we will.
We've got other tracks that we've written. We just, at some point in the future, we'll hopefully finish them off.
There'll be another pandemic along in a minute.
Hopefully it won't take that.
The last one. Make it a good one.
No pressure there.
No pressure.
Sorry. So obviously there's a lot of really great remixers out there, I think of like Cosmic Gate right now, Marsh, 11, Tin Liquor. I'm wondering if there's anyone currently working on, or someone you might be really excited about who get a chance to work on these songs.
We've got a nice mix from Shadow Child coming up, haven't we?
Shadow Child's on.
He does some good stuff. There's Dave Spoon as well, but also the micro cassette mix.
Micro cassette, that's right. And then I think isn't Luttrell and Simon Doty doing mixes? I've been informed. I haven't heard anything yet, but I think they're on the agenda to do some remixes.
You want to remix them?
Got any requests? Remix requests?
Everyone I just said.
Okay,
yeah,
good.
Marsh, Tin Liquor would be amazing.
Marsh makes it good. And Tin Liquor, all of them.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Thank you everyone so much for coming. Really hope you enjoyed it.